The movie Natural Born Killers is a 1994 crime film directed by Oliver Stone. The film explores the story of Mickey and Mallory, a couple that escapes their troubled childhoods and become mass murderers. They are irresponsibly glorified by the media and become stars. The film explores the relationship between real-life violence and mass media's coverage and exacerbation of that violence. This movie has become a cult classic. It was very controversial upon release and remains so today, and unfortunately has inspired a long list of copycat crimes. I also find it kind of ridiculous. Mickey and Mallory start off as two complicated young people who come from abusive homes. Mallory's abuse is detailed in a scene that parodies 50s sitcom I Love Lucy. In I Love Mallory, we learn that Mallory is being sexually abused by her father and her battered mother is too cowardly to step in and stop it. She's eventually rescued by Mick and they murder her parents and run away together. They begin murdering their way through the American countryside and gain nationwide fame. The film doesn't shy away from graphic displays of violence and upsetting murder sequences that feature victims begging for their lives to no avail. Mick even rapes a tied-up woman in a motel while Mallory is away. Mick and Mallory slaughter victims with no mercy, except for a Navajo man named Warren, who Mick accidentally shoots. But otherwise, they seem to enjoy killing. Mick and Mallory become aware of their fame throughout the movie, but they don't heavily indulge in it. Rather, they use it to their advantage later on in prison. One of the main themes of the film is the media's obsession with violent criminals. American media is very fascinated with violent killers, and this is made painfully clear through the movie's media-based subplot. I say painfully clear because there are literally cuts to the devil every time Wayne Gale is on the screen. Wayne Gale is a TV journalist who profiles killers on his show called American Maniacs. The show propels Mickey and Mallory into superstardom. This is an observation of real-world American media's glorification of true crime. Any examples would just be the countless theatrical films about serial killers like Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, Charles Manson, and others. While Mick is in prison, Wayne convinces him to do a sit-down interview for his show that will air after the Super Bowl. The fact that Gale was even able to secure a slot after the Super Bowl for an interview with a mass murderer is an example of the film's satirization of modern media, although it's not too far off from what we have now. Mick rambles about his philosophy on murder, and Wayne is impressed knowing that the audience will eat it up. The interview incites a riot in the prison, and Mick and Mallory murder their way out as the film crew is broadcasting live until the crew is eventually killed by the cops. Wayne even goes from just being a documentarian of the violence to a willful participant when he shoots at prison guards. They are somewhat cornered until a prisoner named Owen helps them escape, and they use their hostages, which are Gale and two other guards, as human shields. Mickey and Mallory walk right out of prison, and Gale films them as he narrates the escape. Then they turn the camera on him and shoot him to death as a message to the pervasive media that glorifies people like them. They literally kill the media, symbolizing the death of a screwed up genre of entertainment based on crime storytelling, hopefully. Mickey and Mallory pretty much live happily ever after. This movie is filmed and edited in a psychedelic and frenzied style. There is black and white cinematography, animation, and complex color schemes and visual elements. It allows not much easy access to the story, and some scenes even have a backdrop instead of a realistic background. I admire Stone's dedication to this experimental style, but I found it difficult to keep up with the story. There are about 3,000 cuts in this movie. Many of them are references to demonic imagery and the devil. It's all a bit too much. It feels like the filmmakers don't trust the audience to interpret the message and have to constantly reinforce it with these cuts. There's even a scene in the film where the word demon is projected onto Mickey and Mallory's bodies. The film ends with clips of real-life crime stories that have captivated the media, like the O.J. Simpson murder trial, the Menendez brothers trials, and the Waco siege, and others. And it also ends with a short montage of clips of devils, including Wayne Gale and Mickey Knox. I mentioned earlier that Natural Born Killers has inspired a long list of copycat crimes, most notably the Columbine High School Massacre. Apparently, Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris were fans of the movie and even used the code NBK for the attack. This has, of course, attracted controversy to the film. I don't personally believe that one could solely blame this violent film for these murders, but it does make you wonder if the movie was never made, would these people have been driven to kill? This brings me to my critique. The film makes an argument against American media's obsession with violent killers and their crimes, but it constantly glorifies and reaffirms Mickey and Mallory. They're attractive, star-crossed lovers that lead a life of crime. Throughout the film, we know they're going to be reunited, and the way the storytelling is set up, it almost encourages you to root for them. And in the end, after killing over 52 people, they vanquish their enemies and escape. I think part of the reason there have been so many murders inspired by this film is that it claims to be pointing the finger at the media, but the filmmakers couldn't help but make their main characters these charismatic, beautiful people that win in the end. Becoming cultural icons because you went on a killing spree is an attractive idea for a lot of people, even if they have to die to achieve that. But the idea that you can shirk any consequences and live with your lover is way better. And that's the ending that the filmmakers chose for this movie. It doesn't even really make that much sense. They just walk out of prison and murder a TV reporter while he's broadcasting the audio live to a news channel. They walk out of the frame and go live with their kids in an RV. Also, how is Mallory even in the same prison as Mickey? It's a all-male prison. Anyway, my question is, where's the comeuppance for them? Every other bad character in this movie gets killed by the end of the film. Detective Scagnetti, Warden McCluskey, Mallory's parents, Wayne, they all get punished. If the media and the killers are in a sort of social feedback loop, shouldn't they both die? Sure, the media glamorizes and really even reinforces the killers and their exploits, but the killers are the ones murdering people, so shouldn't something happen to them too? I mentioned a prisoner named Owen earlier. There's an alternate ending to this film where he kills Mickey and Mallory, which is what I thought would happen when he just showed up in the end to help them. He asks to go with them, and he just seems like the person that would have ended the story. Unfortunately, instead of making a compelling critique of our obsession with crime celebrities, I think Oliver Stone just directed an incredibly violent movie about two badasses that fell in love and kill a bunch of people and get away with it. Which is cool, but his message is so glaringly clear, and yet it ends up being diminished at the end of the day. I may be reading too much into this. The movie is meant to be somewhat satirical. Maybe Mickey and Mallory winning is the point, but I don't think you can rely on the film's satirical nature to resolve the glorification of ultraviolence and these problematic antiheroes. It's not even funny enough to be a satire, in my opinion. Even with all of the disjointed experimental style choices, the story is not far removed enough from reality to excuse its promotion of gratuitous violence and violent criminal activity. It's not crazy to imagine people watching this film and internalizing those messages. At best, Natural Born Killers is a shallow observational film with strong performances and innovative style that undermines itself despite direct imagery and references to its message and theme. At worst, it's a gory fictional snuff film with cool effects.